All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to be hosting our first webinar as part of our Search Everywhere Optimization webinar series. I do want to begin by apologizing for Tuesday's technical issues and the difficulties we came across trying to set up the webinar. I'm really sorry about that. And we are just so thankful that you guys showed up today to listen to the conversation. On the next slide, we're going to kind of just give you a nice intro to who is going to be leading this webinar. So my name is Kenzie Austin. I am the Director of SEO at Envisionit, which is a digital marketing agency based here in Chicago, Illinois. And I am joined with the brilliant Lawson Robinson. He is one of our senior SEO managers. He's an incredible SEO, incredible person, and he's going to be leading most of today's conversation. He's really specializing in content and AI-focused SEO strategies, really leading that across our clients. So I'm really excited for the conversation today. And like I mentioned, this is a webinar series. So we're really excited to launch this. It's going to be happening every Tuesday throughout the month of June, starting at 1 p.m. Central. And we're really going to cover the core concepts of Search Everywhere, which Lawson's going to talk a little bit about what that philosophy means to us. Today, we're focusing on content optimization, but as you guys can see throughout the month of June, we're going to be hitting on some other key outlets and optimization tactics across YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, and Instagram, and then finally with Google Business and local search. So a lot more to come, but like I said, just very thankful you guys are here. We're really excited for the conversation. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Lawson to take us through today's tactics.
Awesome. Well, yes, thank you for the kind words, Kenzie. And we're going to start first with some stats from good old SparkToro, just showcasing where users are searching today. And as you can see in the pie chart on the left-hand side, 80% of all searches are being conducted within traditional search engines. You think about your Google, your Bing, your Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. And then you look at some of the other growing platforms, which are on the rise pretty swiftly here. And that doesn't just pertain to AI tools. It also includes social networks, which Kenzie mentioned we'll be covering on a later date. People are finding brands, finding products on all these different spaces. And so when you think about brand visibility in 2026 and beyond, it's no longer being won on just one single platform. It is an interconnected network of search experiences where your brand has to be found, trusted, and chosen. And at Envisionit, we refer to this as Search Everywhere Optimization. Now, we've got another awesome stat here from Search Engine Land, speaking to how consumers are shifting their behavior with AI search. 37% of consumers in a survey said that they start their search journey on an AI platform, and 60% said that they believe it delivers better answers. They feel that there are fewer ads cluttering that space. They can get information in an easy to digest, synthesized manner, and they have to do less work. People like it when things are easy.
Sorry, Lawson. I'm going to jump in really quick because I forgot a housekeeping item. For any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we will be able to get to those questions via email as a follow-up. And then at the end, we'll also provide an email address that you guys can send any questions to directly. So I just wanted to make that note. Sorry to interrupt you.
Great call out. We do love questions.
We do.
And yeah, with that, I'll get cooking into our strategies. So first things first, we'll start with talking about providing unique content and proprietary data. So in the modern world of content, when you generate information and content, it needs to be unique. It needs to be different. It needs to have some kind of information that cannot be found anywhere else, right? So previously, you would look to blogs from other brands and businesses for inspiration, but now you need to get a little more creative. And you can do this by leaning on proprietary data and internal insights. So if you have internal data that you can turn into an annual report, a survey, or a trend, that's a great way to approach your content. You can include expert quotes and internal commentary, so pulling in subject matter expert quotes, doing interviews, or maybe even have an expert explanation of the content that gives their perspective. You can generate unique frameworks and definitions, so giving your own information and perspective on definitions, turning your internal processes into public-facing frameworks. And you can also use real examples, scenarios, and case studies. So, getting reviews, customer testimonials, those real world proof points that cannot be found anywhere else and cannot be replicated by your competitors. Then next, we'll talk about something I'm a huge proponent of and I definitely love. So, thinking about establishing unshakable credibility. So, when you think about Google Eat, which is a relatively recent concept in terms of popularity, getting into experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness with the rise of AI content, which is being generated by AI. Google users and AI bots want to know that your content comes from a real person that has experience and legitimate expertise on a topic or subject matter. You can showcase this by starting with your visible authorship. So you'll go ahead and you'll have your byline visibility where every blog and every piece of content will have a designated author. You'll showcase their expertise, what is their experience, and then you'll also link out ideally to a detailed bio page with in-depth information and external validation. So you'll be linking out to social media profiles if they've ever written a blog or publicated content or published content on another platform. You can link to that as well. And then you could even go so far as to have a reviewed by expert tag for your technical content, your medical content. Investopedia does a great job of that. They'll always have every blog fact checked by a person just to, again, show that credibility. Then another important aspect here will be citable sources. So you can think about this in the same way that you would a college essay. When you're writing your college essay, you have to cite out to information, and that's going to show AI bots that what you're providing in terms of information is based on facts. It is real information. You're going to use strong language, like according to the CDC, to make sure that extraction is very easy for AI. And then again, to hammer on that idea, include quotes from experts. So what is their perspective? What do they think on this topic? That will not only be unique, but will strengthen the trust, credibility, and authority of your content. Now we've got another stat from Search Engine Land that'll help you understand how it is that ChatGPT, for example, looks at your content and it says 44% of ChatGPT citations come from the first third of your content, and that's going to help set up the conversation on structuring your content for AI crawlers. So AI bots are going to look at your content not only different from how people look at it, but even from how traditional search engines look at it. There's no guarantee that ChatGPT, as just an example, we'll look at your content from top to bottom, all the way down. It might, as we just referenced, only look at that top third. And so then you have to think about how you can contextualize important information at the top through contextual framing, where you start the post with a clear purpose statement, defining the intent and target audience, giving a nice too long didn't read summary. This is one of the most popular strategies right now. You have some information at the top, key takeaways, the bottom line, you include your primary keywords and the core answer of what is this blog about? And then you also give a nice anchored navigation. So you're going to follow that summary with a table of contents using proper anchor tags to help AI chunk out and understand and parse through different content sections.
One thing I'll add as well to the TLDR is that some of the content writers that we work with have gotten hung up on like an actual TLDR, like thinking that they have to have that verbatim. And that's definitely not the case. It's really just the importance of elevating what that key insight, that key takeaway from your content is higher up on the page. So it's easily extractable. So don't get too hung up on like it needing to be a TLDR. That's just what we see most common, but it could be key insight, key takeaway, key learning. You can really position it however you want that matches your brand messaging.
Yes, great addition, Kenzie. And it's also important to note people like too long didn't reads as well. They like to kind of see some scannable information, and it kind of lines up with how they're used to getting these summaries from AI tools. And next, we'll get into optimizing for natural conversations and topic depth, as AI models want in-depth, comprehensive content that covers your topics from top to bottom with a natural flow that matches how they interact with chatbots. You can see a great example here on the left-hand side, where you start with your primary search, how do I start a podcast? Then you get into your follow-up questions. What equipment is needed for a beginner setup? And how much does it cost to launch on Spotify? So you're thinking about what is the starting point, then where are they going from there? Almost like a map. How do you implement this? Well, you're going to start with your H2 and H3 heading tags. So you're going to go through your content and lay out that conversational heading tag flow. You'll give concise answers underneath those questions with about 2 to 4 sentences, delivering direct answers. And then at the end of your content, you could even include some FAQ questions, maybe 3 to 5 specific ones that are going to be a little more long tail. And you can even source what kind of questions to include from the People Also Ask section in Google. Now, thinking about content freshness, this is a huge thing. It is very important. According to a stat from AirOps, great company, content that is less than 3 months old is 35% more likely to be cited than content that is between 9 to 12 months old. So AI bots really like new content, and you can showcase content freshness with your timelines and transparent signals. So including a published on or updated on byline at the top of key pages. You can even slap on the last reviewed by expert to show that it's been updated, and then making sure any timely callouts that you have are as recent as possible. You'll want to go through, make sure that your stats and stories are up to date. So you're updating stats and trends to reflect the most current year, but making sure that you're doing that in a way that doesn't necessarily take away from the credibility of your content, right? So you want to make sure that that's honest and transparent. And then last but not least, giving a continuous content refresh and expansion. So adding new FAQs, insights, or sources during your scheduled revisions, and having a good, consistent cadence when it comes to updating your content, whether it's once a quarter, once every 6 months, or even once a year. I like to think about content kind of like a garden. When you plant your flowers and your plants, you don't just plant them and walk away. You water them, right? You take care of them and you watch them grow with time.
Yeah, and one little tip I'll add around like content auditing. Again, I know it's something that can be overwhelming and it can be a time-consuming task. So the way that we approach it, typically we do quarterly audits, kind of full site, but throughout the month, just zoning in on like different key sections of the site. So whether, for the month of June, you want to look at blog, maybe even 1 week you really hone in on the homepage, for example, and just kind of approaching it by like different sections of your site versus taking on the huge project of like a site-wide audit. That's helped our team really be more efficient with how we're auditing content and a lot more intentional with it as well.
Very true. Now, next we'll look at using direct, clear copywriting, which I actually think is kind of the most difficult strategy here to bring to fruition, probably up there with one of our strategies later on. But AI bots, they're not going to have the same witty sense of humor as you do or as I do, right? I have a great sense of humor. They're going to need content and information to be as clear and direct as possible. So when you're creating content, you need to speak to them directly. Try to avoid any jargon or overly creative phrasing. And this is why I think it is the most difficult, kind of minimize your branded messaging. And I think that that's where a lot of brands and businesses struggle because they have a lot of catchy terms, right? They have marketing phrases that they want to use. They kind of want to write in a way that's clever, which I think makes sense. But at the end of the day, those AI bots want information to be as A, B, and C as possible, right? As simple as possible. And so being able to speak to them clearly will go a long way for you. And then next, we'll think about formatting content for machine readability. So making sure that when you create your content, it's laid out in a way that is easy to digest and easy to understand. When you think about a restaurant menu, when it's laid out, they're all kind of the same. You start with your appetizers, you get into your entrees, you have your desserts. On the back, you have all your drinks, right? So everything is structured in a way that you, as a consumer, can easily consume. Think about that the same way with AI bots. So you're going to want to go ahead and include everything with your within your HTML code as well. So when an AI bot looks at your content, it's not going to see JavaScript. It's not going to see images. It's only going to see what you have in your HTML. So if you want something to be cited, if you want something to be parsed, it has to be in that HTML code. How do you structure this? Great question. You'll start first with your semantic heading. So when you think about your heading structure, it's not too different than what you would do on like a Google Doc, and you'll make sure that you have one H1 heading tag per page, and then everything is nested in a logical subsequent manner. So you're going to go from H1 to H2, then group your H3s underneath that H2, then go back to an H2, and then do the same thing later on, right? You're not going to go out of order from an H2 to H4. You're going to keep everything going top to bottom. AI bots also love lists and steps. So using numbered steps for processes and bullet points for features, this is going to really create the bite-sized chunks for AI citation, making it very easy for it to parse and cite. And last but not least, let me tell you about these tables. I love tables. They are in. It's very popular in content now, and for good reason. It just puts information in a way that is really easy for AI to parse and present to users. And it's also great if you want to do comparisons, if you want to do definitions, you can kind of swap in and out between those lists and steps, and it's very good for those AI bots.
I love these tips too, because all of this just improves the user experience as well. Like we know people are very lazy. They want to scan content. They don't want to do a lot of hard work. So putting content in lists, steps, bullet points, tables, like you're going to see that AI benefit, but also hopefully get some more engagement from the user and just provide them with that better experience.
1000%. Now you'll see for these last two strategies, they're kind of like siblings to one another. So we'll start first with rich media to support visual search. ChatGPT not too long ago put out an update where in its answers and results, it's serving up more images instead of just being only a chatbot. It's giving visuals to users. And this has helped really push forward the value and importance of having high quality visual assets on your website. So you're going to want to include images, but you can go even beyond that. You can include diagrams, charts, any visuals that you really want. We highly recommend embedding relevant videos, ideally from YouTube, but you can use any other high quality source, whether it's a Vimeo, for example, but really complementing that content and really boosting user engagement. As people sit on your webpage and they watch a video, it increases your engagement rate. It counts them as an engaged session, and that sends really positive signals to the algorithm and to these AI bots as well. We've got different types of media laid out here, whether it be images, infographics, videos, and social media. You can use a bunch of these to make some of your more difficult or hard to understand concepts pretty clear. I'm going to stop on social media. This is something I'm a big proponent of, especially for our DMO clients. When you think about pulling in posts, pulling in those feeds, it's a huge boost, right? Again, it's going to get people engaged. You can link out to your own social media platforms to strengthen the relationship between your digital ecosystem and also connect with users. When they come to your website, they're thinking about their vacation or their trip. They see a little video, someone's having fun, they're going down a zip line. They say, I could see myself doing that, and maybe they'll come visit your location. And then now, last but not least, thinking about that sibling strategy, it's not enough to just place rich media on your website. You also want to make sure they're optimized. So it's not just about the aesthetic, it's also about turning them into rich content sources. When you think about AI bots, it is a robot. It's not a person. It's not going to see your image. It's not going to see your video. So it's going to rely on some different aspects of optimization to really understand what you have going on. You can start first with your descriptive alt text. This is going to serve you twofold. Not only does it help with AI bots, it also helps with accessibility. So you're going to include a keyword-rich description here that'll explain what they would see within the image. And that's basically how they'll understand what is there to offer. You think about captions and transcripts, very easy. You just kind of have to turn that on. But these bots are going to look at that video transcript, and it's going to try and understand what you have in your content through those transcripts and captions. And last but not least, you're going to give a nice little descriptive file name with keywords. So AI content workflow.jpg, for example. The more that you can make that clean and easy to understand, the better for those AI bots.
Amazing. Thanks, Lawson. That was great. And what I was thinking about throughout, and we talk about this a lot internally throughout our team, is just like a lot of those tips that he was mentioning are foundational SEO strategies that we know have been working. And that's something that we've seen with our clients, like the ones that have been investing in SEO for a while and really take it serious. They are definitely leading the way in terms of AI visibility. And so just don't forget the fundamentals. I know there's a lot of noise out there around the relevance of SEO and different tactics, and people love to debate it. But from what we've seen, and Lawson, I'm sure you would back me up on that, some of those fundamental strategies are still extremely important when it comes to AI search, especially when it comes to like content optimization and things like that.
Yeah, I agree 1000%. And I'll even take it a step further and double down.
Do it.
It's also all good for the user experience, right? I mean, all
Yeah,
of those
exactly.
strategies are what people want to see. They want information summarized. They want to know that you got your information from a credible source. They like images. They like the pictures. So everything kind of comes together to pretty much, make everybody happy.
100%. And then lastly, the other thing I think would be helpful too is just one of the things we've been focusing on is really educating our content team, our copywriters on some of these tactics and providing them with trainings, documentation, best practice docs, things like that, because what they're producing has a direct impact on how, the content ends up performing in AI. So I would say if you are an SEO, or if you're a content writer yourself, just really paying attention to these strategies, making sure that you're collaborating with your social media team, your content team, your creative team. More collaboration now, the better, especially in the world of AI search. So like I said earlier, we are going to answer all your questions that you put in the chat via email. If you have any others that you think of after the fact, please feel free to reach out directly to me. I have my email listed here. I would love to hear from you guys. Would love to keep the conversation going. And then I believe on the next slide, we have just a little QR code here. So one of the things my team's working on as well is this AI and SEO visibility growth assessment. So we did want to offer that to everyone here on the webinar. Obviously free of charge or anything like that, but it's really just a high level look at how your brand is performing across the competitive landscape, really zooming in on the share of voice metric. And so whether, you have your own website in mind, or if you want to put in one of your clients' websites to kind of see where they stand right now and where some opportunities are, definitely feel free to scan that QR code and my team will deliver that to you and we can kind of keep that conversation going. That is all we had for today. Like I said, this is a series. It's going to be running throughout the month of June. Next Tuesday's topic is going to be a deep dive on YouTube. I know Lawson and I are both very passionate about YouTube. We both love it from a work perspective and also in our personal lives. So we're excited to talk more about it. Yeah. Talking a little bit about, how to optimize on YouTube, video optimization, and all that good stuff. So definitely tune in for that next Tuesday. And yeah, thank you guys for joining. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.